President Trump is flying to China this week, but if you want to understand what is really going on, you need to pay very close attention to what Russian President Putin just said. We started working with our major partners and friends, primarily with our friends from the People's Republic of China, India, and some other nations, including the U.S. administration. We simply presented our friends, colleagues, and partners with a picture of what the situation could develop into. Now, Putin was referring to security concerns around Victory Day, but his list of Russia's partners and friends, China, India, and the United States, tells you everything about why the empire had to convene a big anti-Trump war council in Mark Carney's Canada this past weekend, headlined by top Soros and Obama operatives. One of them, Patrick Gaspard, said this.
I think interregnum is the perfect word to use, Senator, because the death of a king is a shocking and traumatic moment, right? The death of the old model here of the world is shocking and traumatic. What do we all need to be doing in our spaces that prepares us for this moment after the interregnum?
Now, that's a man who served as both Obama's political campaign director and as the head of Soros's Open Society Foundation, admitting that the old model of the world is dead, and he and Mark Carney are trying to rally the forces for a hoped-for world after Donald Trump. Now, a lot of the MAGA sphere was focused on that Toronto meeting. There are posts of Obama being greeted by Carney and pictures of Alex Soros attending the conference. The coverage is everywhere. But what they're missing is this. Carney, Obama, and Soros are not operating from a position of strength. They're scrambling to come up with a fallback plan, while Donald Trump and the other countries are showing the world that sovereign nations can defeat empires. I'm Susan Kokenda, and I've known for decades that the battle lines are not what you've been told. It's not right versus left or capitalists versus communists, but it's an extension of the fight we started 250 years ago. And that's why Promethean Action has been able to identify what President Trump is doing better than anyone else, and why you should hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons. So here's what I'm going to cover today. First, I'm going to take you behind the scenes in Toronto and look at what the Carney Doctrine is all about. Second, I'm going to look at the new global configuration that the Carney Doctrine is trying to stop. And third, how this plays out in the U.S. and what it's going to mean for the midterms. So this weekend, the leadership of, let's call it the North American franchise of the British Empire, gathered in Toronto for the Global Progress Action Summit. Barack Obama flew up on Friday. He gave a closed-door address to the kickoff gala banquet. But the next day, the entire Obama-Soros network, minus Obama himself, was in full attendance in strategy sessions under the banner of the Center for American Progress and Canada 2020. Now, this comes less than a week after Mark Carney addressed over 40 European and Anglosphere nations about the need to create a new rules-based order minus Donald Trump's United States. The keynote in Toronto was delivered by 𝓘𝓷𝓽𝓻𝓸𝓭𝓾. She's the head of the Center for American Progress, who served Clinton, Obama, and Biden. She was introduced as leading, quote, the opposition in the United States. And here's what she, as the head of the opposition, had to say.
And in this past year, Prime Minister Carney has shown the world that there is a path forward, that it's possible to stand up to authoritarianism, but also deliver on the potential of progressive policies, ideas, and values. And in this room, we represent 40 countries, yet we face many of the same challenges in a growing affordability crisis and the rise of right-wing populism and authoritarianism.
So what is this new path forward that they're rallying around? At the summit, Mark Carney's foreign minister called it the Carney Doctrine and described it as principled pragmatism. Translated into plain English, that means keeping all the structures of globalism in place. Free trade, the green agenda, NATO, unchecked immigration, and forever wars, but face the fact that broad layers of the population have had it with the woke and crazy policies of the hard radical left and the economic impact of those globalist policies. So instead, their strategy, blow smoke in their eyes and act like they care about their economic well-being. I think some of them read the writing on the wall after Keir Starmer's epic defeat in Britain last week. Now, the American face of this rebrand at the conference was Senator Alyssa Slotkin from Michigan, who comes from that peculiar class of CIA-spawned Democrats, and former Biden Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Both are being groomed by the Obama-Soros networks as 2028 presidential prospects. So here's Slotkin echoing Carney in American terms.
I think the thing that I think is very important is we're never going to go back to the way the world was. If the old system is no longer working, but we're in this interregnum reorganization, what does it look like when we come through the tunnel? And I would offer that what to me is very fundamentally important is that while ideals that many of us, myself included, were trained on, we have to deliver for our public. Our foreign policies have to serve the economic well-being of our countries. And if people can't see the connection between our engagement abroad and what it does for them back home, if they don't understand that in their bones, we got a problem.
They are admitting they have a problem. Now, look at who isn't admitting that. Look at who was not at the summit. AOC, Hakeem Jeffries, Gavin Newsom, and their ilk. Those are the lemmings still running off the cliff of the old narrative. CAP is positioning itself as the real opposition to Donald Trump, and they're saying it out loud. Now, who's actually running this? They all come from the Obama-Biden-Soros networks. Look at Gaspar, the man you just heard called Trump's presidency an interregnum. He was Obama's national political director in 2008. Then he became the director of the White House Office of Political Affairs. And then Soros tapped him personally to run the Open Society Foundations. Now he's at CAP moderating these summits. And CAP, Center for American Progress, itself is the Democratic Party's operational headquarters between administrations. It was launched by John Podesta, who's the closest thing that the Democratic establishment has to a permanent staff director. He was Bill Clinton's chief of staff, Obama's counselor, Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign chairman, and Biden's climate spending czar. So CAP has also internationalized itself through these Global Progress Action Summits. A previous summit was keynoted by Tony Blair. In 2024, the summit was embedded inside the Democratic National Convention. And in 2025, the whole Anglosphere came together for the summit, with Canada, Britain, and Australia sending their prime ministers. So this has been a multi-year running political coordination operation with direct pipelines to the Obama networks, the Soros networks, and the British through Tony Blair and a variety of other prime ministers. And it just landed in Canada under the Carney Doctrine. Now, watch this group, because it is easy to stay focused on the crazies in the Democratic Party. But these are the people who are being groomed to try and run things at the highest levels of the empire. And this is what Promethean Action does. We look behind the headlines and the clickbait, and we expose the higher level strategic and deeper historical forces at play. So sign up for our free newsletter, stay in touch. The link is in the description. Now, while Carney and his friends are trying to regroup, President Trump and his partners are driving forward with a new strategic map of the world. Let's go back to Putin's remarks about his friends and partners and what's going on between the three superpowers. On May 9th, President Putin announced a pending significant oil and gas deal with China. Then, on May 14th, President Trump is traveling to China, and it's now being reported that Putin may travel to China very shortly thereafter. Now, the neocons will look at this from the old geopolitical playbook. They're going to say Russia and China are ganging up against the United States. Well, that's not how Trump or Putin see it. Putin made that clear by describing his friends and partners. And here's how Donald Trump described his relationship to China in an interview yesterday.
My relationship is very good with President Xi. I don't know the other leaders, but President Xi is a good man, smart man, loves China. And I look forward to being there. We did this once before, and it was amazing. It's going to be I think it's going to be an amazing trip.
Now, also, I want you to take note of the context of Putin's remarks about his partners. They came in the context of Victory Day. Victory Day marks the 81st anniversary of the end of World War II. This is the last time the United States and Russia and China were allied with each other against fascism. And for Russia, this celebration is always massive and deeply emotional because 26 million Russians died in that war. But in this 21st century, American presidents have ignored Victory Day until Donald Trump. Apparently, celebrating our shared alliance with Russia and China against fascism didn't fit into the post-war narrative established by Winston Churchill when he gave his Iron Curtain speech in 1946. But Donald Trump has broken with that post-war narrative, and he issued his first Victory Day proclamation in 2025, and then he did it again last week. And now he's heading to China to talk to Xi, work through trade differences, and deepen the relationship. It's no wonder that the Obama-Soros networks are scrambling for a reset of their own. Donald Trump is dismantling the geopolitical architecture of the post-war period that kept the United States in permanent conflict with Russia and China, and also kept the Mideast in perpetual turmoil. Now, let's go back to Toronto and look at it from the American domestic standpoint. Remember how Patrick Gaspar and others described the Trump presidency as an interregnum, a temporary gap before the old order returns? Their desperate wish is that they can dislodge or cripple him through a Democrat midterm victory. But as Barbara covered on Wednesday, those hopes took several really big body blows last week, with both the U.S. Supreme Court and the Virginia Supreme Court delivering decisions on redistricting that makes a midterm path significantly harder for the Democrats. Here's a New York Times headline which captures the state of mind. A private call reveals Democrats' desperation over tossing of map. So the Obama-Soros network now knows they've got to work even harder. And that means trying somehow to win back the working class. Listen to how CAP's 𝓘𝓷𝓽𝓻𝓸𝓭𝓾 framed it in Toronto.
I hope in your countries people see what's happening in the United States and again recognize that this championship, this idea that the far-right champions the working class is actually a failure.
A failure. That's what they want you to believe. They need you to not see what Trump is actually doing for the working class. That his tariff policies, his anti-monopoly push, and his credit for industry framework are creating a genuine economic revolution. They need people to stay in the world of being losers and victims, rather than seeing the profound changes taking place in our economy right now and what that means for the future. This is exactly where Promethean action comes in. It's our job to make clear the depth of that economic revolution and to cut through the noise. And we did just that with our new pamphlet, which you can get by going to the Promethean Action website and clicking on the top banner. We show you that this administration has challenged the imperial system by reviving the American system of economics, and we show you the impact it is already having in terms of manufacturing, energy independence, and genuine and durable growth. So go over to the Promethean Action website, check out that pamphlet. This has been your Monday Brief. Thanks for watching.
Really good to see that a group of podcasters, if you want to call Promethean Action podcasters, are starting to bring Canada into the light. You know, it's about time, you know, because too many people in Canada, they don't realize just how many people in Canada are awake to what's going on. There's tons of people from all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast. There's people catching on, but, you know, Canadians are a little bit too quiet about it when they want to support Trump. They don't want to talk about it out loud. It's time that they started screaming it. Why? Because there's so much going on. It's exciting. You know, Promethean Action brought brought Carney to light once before, and they did this talking about how Carney stood up with a little toy soldier. Toy soldier, he said it was a statue on his desk. A toy soldier is a statue. They did a whole video on it, and I uploaded it. It's in my list. I'll put the link down below, so you'll be able to catch that in the description down below, and watch that short video, and explains it again, just how people in Canada are catching on. They're catching on. But the Canadians, we have to start being a little bit more voices. We have to have our voices heard. We have to step up to the plate and make some noise about it. You know, I had a lot of fun. I have a mega hat, and I wore that into a local restaurant. And it was funny, because there's a whole bunch of people. They looked at me and smiled and nodded and winked and quietly put a thumbs up. There was a few that were looking down at me and scolded at me, and they really didn't like what I was doing at all. But I was quite happy to see how many people were silently in support. And I think that there's a lot of Canadians from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast are starting to catch on to what's really going on. Share this video and make sure you do your part of getting the message out there, and wake up a few more of the sleeping lions, I call them. They're the ones that are sitting in the background. They're awake. They know what's going on, but they don't stand up. They have to learn how to stand up and stand out. Hi there, Neil here, the Twisted Lightworker. There's lots going on besides that. Trump is about to go to China, and everybody thinks that he's going to be suckholing Xi in order to end the Iran war. But there's a whole lot more going on than that. If you pay attention to everything that Trump is doing with his tariffs and working on building strong nation states from the North Pole all the way to the South, he's doing everything economically, not militarily. Even though the military is required to put everything together and make sure it all flows, and it's working in the background, there's more going on than that. Trump is taking who with him? He's taking Elon Musk and Tim Cook with Apple. And Tim Cook, he knows a lot about what's going on with the manufacturing over there, because he's been building relationships with China and importing all of China's manufactured goods with his Apple products. So he's very knowledgeable on the manufacturing that's going on in China. Same with Elon Musk. He's got a big factory over there. And remember, Elon Musk controls the satellite operations going on to make changes in our whole system of connectivity through the internet. But there's more. Who else is going with them? Who else is going with Trump this time? Who else is he bringing? He's bringing, let's see now, Goldman Sachs, head of Goldman Sachs. He's bringing head of BlackRock. He's bringing head of Meta. Why is he doing that? Well, this is a business trip. This is not a war-saving adventure. This is a business trip. Meta, they sell all of Chinese goods and WhatsApp and everything done through Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. They sell all of the stuff through Temu and the other supply chains that China markets to the U.S. So China needs that connection. As you can see with the people that are going there, he's doing what a businessman does. He's negotiating contracts where we're going to sell grains like soybeans, etc., to China. He's negotiating things that are going to bring about peace. And the oil, they've stopped the Iranians from shipping oil there. So China right now, their inflation's going like crazy because their oil supply is down to next to nothing. So guess what? They need to have that oil brought. And Trump's military is not allowing the Iranian ships to leave there. And that used to be one of their main suppliers, Iran. So there's so much going on the economic side. And that goes back into what Promethean Action said about taking down the old system. There's a new world coming, and the gold standard currency is about to be implemented from the North Pole to the South. It's a fun thing to watch. I'm not an economic master by any stretch of the imagination, but if you do a little bit of thinking, if you're able to observe and think critically, you can see what's really going on. But people don't know how to think. But worse than that, they don't even know how to observe. They just wait to be programmed on what they're supposed to think by what they are shown. They have to be able to learn how to observe, and that's part of the Great Awakening. The part of the Great Awakening that mankind is going to start to realize that we're all involved in this great awakening, and it's happening on the inside of each and every single one of us. You see, God hath not given the spirit of fear, but of love and of power and sound mind. And that spark of the divine is inside each and every single cell of everybody's body. And at the end of our DNA, there's 2 strands of telomeres. And those telomeres, they are like the antennas that give us the ability to tap into that spark of the divine that's inside. This is the Great Awakening. This is a whole lot more than what most people are prepared to step out of their comfort zone and look at, because we've been programmed to be stupid. In fact, I made a video about that where a chap from the end of the war, when the Nazis were taking over in Europe, he was trying to get people to realize what was going on. And they put him in jail. And while he was in jail, he started to realize that it was not the problem with the elite that were controlling things at that time. They weren't the evil ones. They were the evil ones, but the real problem was not them. It was the stupid people. And we've been programmed not to be able to observe, not to be able to think critically, and definitely not to be able to tap into that source of the spark of the divine that's inside you. This Great Awakening is so much more than political, so much more than economical. It's all about tapping into that who you really are on the inside. That spark of the divine that shines for everybody, in everybody. In India, when they meet, they sometimes say Namaste. And the short version of what that means I honor the God in you. But the long version, I honor you for that place in you where the universe resides. I honor you for that place in you of love, of light, and of truth, and of peace. And I honor you for that place in you, for when you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, there's only one of us. It all taps in to the ether. Like Tesla said, everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. In his exact words is, when you think of the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. People get it wrong. They think he said 3 things. No, he said 1 thing. When you think of the universe, what it really means is the ether is one big massive field of unlimited potential, and we're all part of it, and it's part of us. And its attributes are energy, frequency, and vibration. Its attributes is what the 3 things are. It's one thing. It's one ether, one field of unlimited potential, and the consciousness of man is what controls it and lifts it up. We are the ones that we are waiting for. And by 2030, we will thrive and be happy. And I call that thrivalism. I've been calling it thrivalism since 2017, long before I even heard of 𝓱𝓸𝓷𝓭 coming into place. So these are amazing times, my friends. And I inspire you to learn how to observe, learn how to research, open your mind, really dig deep on both sides of the coin. And you're going to find that it's not the one side of the coin, it's not the other side of the coin, it's just a blob of silver that's been molded. That's when you get to source. That is when you get to source. And so therefore I'm going to end this video with a normal wish from the bottom of my heart. And I wish for you and yours peace profound.